YouTube, what's happening? It is Saturday, June 22nd. There are 15 games in baseball to talk about today. But first, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, because even though yesterday was a loss, I take credit, it was a loss. Too many plays, too many leans. We're not doing leans no more. You didn't like that apparently, so I listened to you. So we're going to do straight up plays and my thoughts like usual. Still up 14.3 for the week and up 46 for the past month. So still doing well. As you can see, the incline still going up. That's what we want to see. So we got 15 games. I did put a new feature into it, the data a little bit. I'm still working on the rest of them. I still didn't get it all done. I'm going to try to roll out something over every day for the next few days. So let's jump into that first game so I can show you. First game, we got the White Sox and the Tigers. We got Thorpe with an 8.64 against Maeda with a 6.02. Absolutely beautiful pitching matchup today. Odds, we have Detroit as pretty heavy favor at home, 8.5s across the board with a 9 on there. Interesting. Looking at the batting screen, this is where the change happens. I added the last runs in their last game, essentially. That way we can see on the trend if they all of a sudden start going down, they break out their trend, or if they fall off a cliff, we can see it in real time. We don't have to wait 3 games for that data to compute. So I took the Nerfy off the screen. This is going to be just for batting. Pitching is going to get its own screen, and then Nerfy and other team matchup specific things are going to get their own screen. So we're going to have multiple data areas to look at for every game going forward. So this is the first change I made yesterday. As you can see here, both offenses are not good. I don't even need to go much into it. You can see they got a bunch of 20-something ranks next to them. They're terrible offenses. Yesterday's game was 2-1 as a final. Awful. Let's look at the pitching and see if it matters any. Thorpe doesn't even have a picture. That tells you something about him. He's pitched 2 games, 5 innings against Seattle, gave up 3 hits and 1 earned run. Not bad. But then Arizona said, welcome to the big leagues. 3 innings, 7 hits, 6 hits, 7 earned runs. They roughed him up pretty good. Maeda, on the other hand, has a 6.02 with a 1.4, has pitched many games. He's an actual starter-ish for him. I say ish because 4.2, 4, 5, 5, 2. Is he really a starter? I mean, yeah, I guess we'll call him a starter. But his last game against Houston got roughed up. 5 hits for 4. 4 innings for 1 against Washington. Not bad. Nothing. He threw 2 pitches and came out the game against Texas. And before that, Boston roughed him up good, and Cleveland roughed him up really good before that. So he's very up and down. He gives up runs. So we have 2 pitchers that give up runs in Thorpe and Maeda. We have 2 offenses that are just absolutely atrocious. So we have unstoppable force versus a movable object. Something's going to happen here. I don't know which way it's going to go. I can't really bet based on these totals here because the pitchers are awful. The offenses are awful. This could be 2-1. It could be 12-10. I don't know. I got to pass on that. Sidewise, you see why Detroit's favored? Why? Show me where Detroit should be favored here in these stats. I don't see it. I said the same thing yesterday in the Oakland game. I said Oakland could very easily win this game. What happened? They won the game. So pitching, there's no real advantage here. Maeda's better technically than Thorpe, but Thorpe has 2 games of pitching. We had 1 great game and 1 bad game. We don't know what he is. So to me, this entire game for me is just going to be a pass. Move on to the next one. Next up, we got San Fran and St. Louis in the second game of the series, but the first one actually in St. Louis because the other one was in Birmingham 2 days ago. So we have Hicks with a 2.82 up against Mikolas with a 4.59. Looking at the odds, we see that it's basically a pick 'em across the board. Your totals, we have 8.5s, we have 9s, we have variety, we have options. Looking at the batting, we can see the trend line. San Fran's popping up a little bit, but overall, St. Louis still seem they're higher in the runs recently. They're scoring a little bit more in the runs. Their batting average in recently last 3 games is better, 2.57 versus 2.12. And their strikeouts are not as good as San Fran. San Fran's better in strikeouts. So I would say St. Louis has a slight advantage offense here. Looking at the pitching side, we see Hicks is going out there with a 2.82 with a 1.23 whip. Has not faced St. Louis recently. Last game, 5 innings, 4 hits, nothing against the Cubs. Houston, 5 for 3, roughed him up a little bit. I would say rough. I guess it's roughing him up a little bit. Arizona, 6 for 2. Before that, the Yankees definitely roughed him up, 7 for 4 with 2 home runs. Before that, outside the Yankee game, he's been pretty decent. He's been serviceable. He's what you want in a pitcher. So Mikolas, on the other hand, 4.59 with a 1.15. Has not faced San Fran recently. 4 with 1, 7 innings, 1 hit against Pitt. That was a great game from him. 6 innings, 5 for 2 against Houston. We can see that there. And then we're getting back in May where we get 3 and 3. So he gave a 3. He's only gave 3 total this month. He's been better in June. Hicks has been the same every month. I would say there's no real advantage in the pitching matchups. There's no real advantage in a slight advantage St. Louis in the batting matchups. Looking at, I maybe give San Fran a slight advantage just because throughout the whole season, Mikolas has been a little bit worse, and he has been prone to, as you can see, give up more runs. Like the Mets got him pretty good here. Milwaukee got him good here. So he's more prone to bad games, I would say. Looking at the odds, money line, I see lots to pick them. It's a hard game to pick. I can't really lean aside in this one because I'm not putting any money on this one. I don't know who's going to win. Total wise, 8.5, 9. That's neither offense is really saying take me. They're both, everything's middle of the road. Nothing's really standing out in this game. So to me, I'm just going to pass in this one. Next game. Next up, we got the Mets and the Cubs. We got McGill with a 3.52 and Italian with a 3.08. Looking at the odds, the Cubs are slightly favored at home. The totals are crazy. 11.5 and some 12s out there. That means it's supposed to be a windy day at Wrigley. That's well that normally says. Looking at the batting, we see the Mets, their offense has been on fire. The Cubs have struggled. Their batting average from the last 3 is up to 277 for 8th, but they still can't score any runs. They're only getting 4 runs in their last 3 games for 18th and 1 run yesterday. Meanwhile, the Mets are still churning out runs. So the Grimace era will never die, apparently. So we have right here the Mets. They already have a clear advantage when it comes to the offense. Pitching-wise, McGill's going out there with his 3.52 with a 1.3 whip. His games are pretty consistent, what you expect. There's been no real blow-up. I mean, 7 for 4 is his worst game against Washington. Strikeout-wise, 5, 8, 4, 9, 7. Dude likes to strike people out. And as we see, the Cubs, they did strike out 13 times yesterday and 10 average in their last 3, which is only 8th, but still 10 times when... that might be worth looking at a strikeout prop, which I have to look that up later to see what that is. Looking over at Italian, we see he's a 3.08 with a 1.32. His games, you can see he's pretty much what you expect. White Sox got him for 10 hits for 5 earned, though. That's kind of stands out. Like, the White Sox of all teams? Like, really? All right. And then he was consistent for 6 for 3, 9 for 3, 6 for 3. We know we're going to get with him. He's going to give it probably 3-ish runs. Outside of the Tampa Bay, great game. I guess these 2 games will probably cancel out. So I would say pitching is probably pretty equal. 3, 5, 6, 4, 3, 4. He's not a strikeout dude. McGill kind of is, but this guy is not. So we see on bat, we see the Mets have the offense. Pitching, I would say, is pretty equal. I wouldn't see anything really stands out in pitching. The Mets have the offense. The Cubs struggle to score runs. So with that being said, with the odds being where they are, the Mets, I can get it almost plus money. I'm going to take the Mets money line today. We're not going to play that total. I don't care how fast the wind's blowing. You got to be able to hit the ball. If you can't hit the ball, you can't hit home runs. So, and as you can see in pitching, neither of these dudes, 1, 1, 1. He's given 3 home runs in his last 6 games. McGill has given up 1 home run in his last 5 games. So I don't expect either one of these dudes to give up a bunch of runs. So home runs anyways. So I'm going to pass on the total. We're going to take Mets money line, move on to the next game. Next up, we got Arizona and Philly. We got Henry with a 6.23 up against Wheeler with a 2.84. Odds, we have Philly as a heavy favorite at home. -2 something no matter where you look. Total is 8.5s and 9s out there, depending on which direction you want to go. Batting, we see that Arizona is, they're about the same. I would say Arizona's going to have an advantage, but not really. If you look at the last 3 games on average, 3.7 versus 3.3 on runs, 252 is 255. They're both the equal. In both, if anything, Arizona lightly broke out for 5 runs with 265 average in the last game. Meanwhile, Philly, 4 runs for 212. They went down. Arizona went up. So they're about the same. And they're starting to start their trends in different directions. Strikeout-wise, they're the same. They both got 9.3 in their last 3 games, and they both got 6 yesterday. So nothing stands out there. They're about equal. That's all there's there. Pitching wise, Henry's a 6.23 with a 1.7 whip. Not good numbers. You see his last 2 games. He hasn't faced Philly yet, that's not good for him because gave up 5 with 2 home runs, 3 for 2 with a home run, 5 for 2 with nothing, 5 for 1 for a home run, 9 for 5 against the Cubs of all teams. This is when the Cubs were bottom 5 in batting average and just not looking good. So 4 for 2 against Colorado. So he's been prone to give up some runs, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 5 home runs in his last 6 games. You're going against Philly, who likes to hit home runs. Good luck with that. Wheeler, on the other hand, 2.84 with a 1.01 whip. Has not faced Arizona recently, but Baltimore we'll see how he bounces back from his Baltimore game because Duke got bent over a barrel and shown the 50 states in this game. 3 hits, 1 earned run against Boston, 5 for 1 against Milwaukee. 2 great game against San Fran, then 2-2. So you see what you get here. He's a pretty great pitcher outside of this game. What the hell was that? That game was wild. So we'll see. That might be an outlier. That might not. He might bounce right back to one of these games. So I will lean that way because he has a history of being good. And sometimes you just have an off day. It happens. So with that being said, massive advantage for Philly and pitching. In no advantage really when it comes to offense. With the odds, I see why Philly's favored so much. I will put Philly. I'm going to take Philly money line. Obviously, it's going to be a parlay. Because if you put 1 unit on it, you're going to get back what, 0.4 units. Why not? So we'll take that, and we're going to pass on strikeouts. We're going to pass on the total. We're going to pass on everything and move on to just Philly money line and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Kansas City and Texas. We got Waka with a 4-2-4 up against Gray with a 3-3-1. You see on the odds here that Texas is a pretty slight favor at home. Total is 8.5. There is an 8 out there. Batting wise, we see that Texas kind of has the advantage. Their last 3, 5.7 versus 2 runs for KC, so advantage Texas on the runs. Even yesterday, it was 6-2 was the final. 245 batting versus 210, so Texas has the advantage batting average wise, and strikeouts 6 average the last 3 to 9.3, so Kansas City is striking out more. So Texas has clear advantages, but nothing super impressive. It's just a slight advantage. Looking at the pitching matchups here, we see Walker's going out there for KC with a 4-2-4 to 1-2-5. Has faced Texas, but it was way back on May 4th, and he has not pitched in the month of June. So he has not pitched in over 3 weeks. So that's interesting to see how he does. When he did face Texas, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, gave up no home runs, only 1 walk, but only struck out 3. So he got roughed up pretty good against Texas. 3 for 2, 3 for 1, 6 for 2 against Detroit with 3 for 2 and then 5 for 2. So he's going to give it 1 or 2 unless he bounces back and regress and goes back to that Texas game again. We expect him to give up 2, maybe 3 runs. Gray, on the other hand, 3-3-1 with a 1-3-2. We can see his last game, the Mets absolutely demolished this dude. 11 for 9 with 2 home runs, 4 for 1 against LA, just one hit over 2.1. And these are all, he hasn't pitched more than 3 innings in the month of June. So we don't know what we're going to get with him. So this one's up in the air. We have 2 pitchers that have been rocked in his last game. He got rocked, but the last time Walker faced Texas, he got rocked. So this is going to be a fun one to look at. We see the Texas has the offensive advantage. The odds are 8.5 and 8 in this one. I am almost leaning. I think I might take the over of 8 because pitchers get shell shocked occasionally. It's hard for them. Some don't bounce back. They bounce back a little bit and they still give up runs. So Texas has offense. Casey struggling a little bit on offense. That's fine because both pitchers, as you know, Walker got rocked in his last Texas game, and Gray got rocked his last game. I'm going to take the over in this one. There's 8s out there. It means I can get over 8 anywhere. I'm going to take over 8. We're not going to take a side in this one. Pass on that all day. So just over 8 and move on to the next game. Next up, Tampa Bay and Pitt. We got Eflin with a 4-1-2 against Jones with a 3-7-6. Odds have it pretty much a pick 'em no matter where you look. And we have a lot of 8s with a couple 8.5s out there on the total. Batting wise, we see Tampa Bay has the clear advantage offensively because 6.7 runs in their last 3 versus Pittsburgh's 1.7. They got 10 runs yesterday while Pitt got 3. So we got both teams trending up. Tampa Bay broke the roof. They trended so high. So they're on fire offensively. Batting average, they batted 405 yesterday. They went 305 to average their last 3 games. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh is at last in the majors in their last 3 at 138 as a team. Just beautiful batting out there for Pittsburgh. 167 yesterday for 26 for the day. Overall, strikeouts, they're about the same. Nothing stands out there. So yeah, we have Tampa with a massive advantage when it comes to that. Looking over at pitching, Eflin's going out there with a 4-1-2 with a 1-1-7. Has not faced Pitt recently. You can see he gives up a couple runs a game. That's just what he does. So we expect Pitt to get a couple runs at least. And 1-1-0-2, he might give us some home runs. He might, if there's a Pittsburgh player home run prop out there, it might be worth looking at. So looking at Jones on the other hand, 3-7-6 with a 1-1-3. We see he gives up a lot of runs as well. So he has not faced Tampa Bay recently, but I don't think it matters because he gave up 6 earned to Colorado, 2 to Minnesota. Somehow pitchers pitch their best game against the Dodgers of all teams. While Gave up 5 to Detroit, 3 to San Fran, 3 to this. So we expect runs here too. So going back over to the odds, we see we have 8s out there, and I have an offense this hot and 2 pitchers that like to give up runs. Yeah, I am going to be taking not only Tampa Bay on the money line, because not only FanDuel has them as a dog. Love that. So that means other offshore books are going to have some dog lines too. So we're going to get Tampa Bay money line. We're going to take the over of 8 in this one, and we're going to move on to the next game. Next up, we got Minnesota and Oakland. I said this game yesterday. We looked at the stats. I said, this is a game Oakland could very easily win. And what happened? They won the game. So, I mean, the stats don't lie sometimes. Sometimes they do, but most of the times they don't. So, Ober, 481. Sears, 425. Odds, Minnesota, pretty heavy favorite again on the road. Total, we have 7.5. A lot of 8s out there. And for some reason, there's not a run line at MGM. That's weird. I don't know what they know. Batting wise, we have, they both are getting 4.3 runs a game in their last 3, so they're tied now offensively there. 268 for Oakland in their last 3, 259, so both offenses are pretty equal. Nothing really stands out. Even look at Oakland getting up in this almost single digits in strikeouts. They're getting there. They're doing a lot better. They started hot, went terrible, and back up to doing pretty good. So Oakland's not bad right now. We can see Minnesota's on a 3-game losing streak too. That's something to point out. Looking at the pitching, Ober's going out with a 4.81, the 1.19. Faced Oakland in his last game. Gave up 6 hits, 1 earned, 1 home run, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts against them. Before that, Pittsburgh gave up 7 hits, 4 runs. New York, 3 for 3. 9 for 6 against KC. 4 for 2 against Texas, and 8 for 5 against Cleveland. So he has tendency to get rocked more often than not. He has faced Oakland, had a great game against Oakland, but typically, not every time, but sometimes when the pitchers and hitters face each other for the second time, the hitters have an advantage because they've seen what the pitcher can do. They see the stuff. They see the release point. They see the motion. They see the pitches. They see everything. So I'm going to say Oakland's going to have a little bit more. Will they do better than 6 hits, 1 earned run? Maybe. Maybe 2 runs, maybe 3. We'll see. Sears, on the other hand, also faced Minnesota. He gave up a little more. He gave 9 hits, 4 earned, 3 bombs, 4 walks. He had a rough game. So do I expect it to be this bad again? No, but I don't expect it to be much better either. So last few games before that, 7 for 3, 3 for 2, 6 for 4. See, you can see what he gets. So we can see both pitchers are not the best. They're both, I would say they're both below average. Looking back at the batting, we can see both offenses are around the 10 range overall. They're 13th in runs their last 3. They're 12 and 10 in batting average, so they're decent. We'll split it that way. They're both decent right now. Minnesota is cooling off. Oakland, I would say, is heating up. So with the odds being where they are, I see 7.5s out there. I'm going to take the over 7.5 in this one. I'm not taking a side. Again, this is a game Oakland could win very easily because the stats line up. Minnesota should not be this favorite. They're favored because of the name on the jersey. That's it right now. If anything, they're favored because of the name on the other jersey. That's what it is. So, because this weekend, you're going to have a lot of casual bettors out here betting teams. Be like, oh, Oakland A's, don't they suck? Yeah, I'm going to bet the other team. That's a lot of people out there. Don't be one of those people. So, I'm going to take the over 7.5, since we see those on here, and we'll move on to the next game. Next up, we got Boston and Cincinnati. We got Pivetta with a 3.88 up against Montes with a 4.62. Odds have the Red Sox slightly favored on the road. 9.5 of the total across the board. Looking at the data, we got Boston 1-game losing streak, Cincy 1-game winning streak. Boston has the advantage when it comes to offense. Looking at the numbers, 4.3 runs in their last 3 while batting 257. Cincy 2.3 over 187 average for them. They did better in their last game. They got 5 runs and batted 200, but they're still not that great over the last 3. I need to see more consistency before I can back Cincy. Boston still has the better stats, even though you can see the trend line, they're falling down a little bit. That's a little concerning. So, and strikeouts are up. They struck out 14 times yesterday. That's a lot. Don't do that. That's not good. You're not going to win games that way. Cincinnati, 8 strikeouts last game for 13th. They're still doing good on strikeouts. So the advantage goes to Boston offensively. Pitching wise, Pivetta is going out there with a 3.88 with a 1.13. You can see has not faced Cincy recently. 9 for 3 against Toronto, 6 for 4 against Philly, 1 hit gem against Atlanta of all teams, 3 for 2 against Detroit, 7 for 5 against Milwaukee. Milwaukee has been roughing teams up recently. I saw like 3 pitchers yesterday. Their worst game was against Milwaukee of all teams. That's standing out. Might need to take note of something like that. So looking at Montes, 4.62 with a 1.39, you can see has not faced Boston recently. 4 for 3 against Milwaukee, but not his worst game, but still not, there we go. 5 for 4 against Chicago, 7 one-hit gem against Colorado, 6 for 3, 9 for 4 against San Diego. So what you see here, they're both going to give up some runs. They both give up hits. Nothing really stands out there. We have one offense that's pretty, I would say, they're not hot. I would say that they're trending down. And it's not, you don't really want to bet on teams trending down. That's just me. I don't like doing it. So you see, Boston started off, they were 5.3, 5.8 runs their last week, 2 weeks. Now they're 4.3. They had 2 yesterday. They're going down. That's not something I like betting on, especially when they're only a slight favorite on the road. I don't like any of that. So for me, this entire game was just going to be a pass. I'm going to move on to the next game. Next up, we got Toronto and Cleveland. We got Barrios with a 3-1-3 and Lively with a 3-0-2. Looking at the odds, we see Cleveland slightly favored at home. We have 8.5s and 9s out there across the board for the totals. Batting, we see the advantage goes to Cleveland recently, 2.3 in their last 3 for Toronto. Meanwhile, Cleveland's at 7.0 for third. In the last game, it was 7-1. So Cleveland still has a trend. Toronto's going downhill still. 225 versus 247 batting average. No real advantage there. You can see last game, Cleveland did not swing well, but they still scored 7 runs. So take with that what you will. And strikeout wise, you can see the differences there. Moving over to the pitching, we see Barrios is going out there. 8 hits, 4 earned against Cleveland in his last game out there. So the Cleveland's seen him. They see how he does, and they should have a slight advantage against him now. Will they get 8 hits again and 4 runs? Maybe not, maybe only 3, but we'll take what we can get. You can see the rest of his games have been pretty decent across the board. Nothing really stands out too bad except for he did face Cleveland. And his competition, Lively, also faced Toronto. Same stat line, 6 for 4, 3, nothing for 5 against Miami. Nothing really stands out here either. So we have 2 pitching. They both face each other, same stats. Nothing really stands out here. Batting, Cleveland has the advantage. Pitching's about equal. Odds, we have Cleveland money line, over under 8.5s and 9s. I'm not going to play the over under, but I will take Cleveland money line in this one because of the offensive advantage. And we will move on to the next game. Next up, we got Baltimore and Houston. Second game in the, I don't know what happened yesterday in the series. I checked my phone, all of a sudden it's 14-11. What is that? Nothing went like I thought it would yesterday in that game. Anyways, new day, new game. Baltimore sending out Burns with a 2-4. Astros, Blanco 2-4-3. Odds. Baltimore's pretty decently favored on the road again. We see 7.5 and 8 as the totals. Batting, we see offensively, they're both popping off right now. Baltimore, 11.7 runs a game for number 1 in the last 3. Had 11 yesterday. Houston, 7.7 runs in their last 3 for second. They had 14 yesterday. Of course, Baltimore's help in their numbers obviously come from 2 days ago when they faced the Yankees and put up, 17 and 11. They're just, the bats are on fire. You can see Baltimore batted .419 yesterday. And it was only second best for the day. 364 in the last 3 days is first. Houston, 327 in their last 3 days for second. They're 359 yesterday in their game. Both trend lines are through the roof. That's what we like to see. Strikeouts, I don't even care. When you're doing that well offensively, you can swing and miss all you want. So moving on to pitching, we see Blanco has not faced Baltimore. You can see his stats here. Pitched a no-hitter against Detroit for 7 innings. Had 3 walks, but still great game, great game. Yeah, average game, gave 4 runs a couple times, so nothing really stands out there. Burns, on the other hand, you can see has not faced Houston. So you can see his stats here. Nothing really stands out here that's crazy. Looking at the odds, I see 7.5s out here when these two teams are this on fire with pitchers that are, they're decent pitchers, maybe even good pitchers. I'll say good. They're both good pitchers, but I don't care how good your pitching is. If your bats are that hot, one of them is hard to have them both cool off all of a sudden when they're both trending up. So I'm going to be taking the over 7.5 in this one. And I'm not going to take a side in this one. We're just going to take the over, sit back and hope one of these teams continue their massive offensive onslaught and continue to hit overs for us. So over 7.5, move on to the next game. Next up, we got Seattle and Miami. We got Gilbert with a 2.93 and Anderson with a 10.1, only over 5 innings. Looking at the odds, we see that Seattle is pretty heavily favored on the road. 7.5 of the totals across the board. Batting wise, Seattle lost 3, Miami's won 3. You can see that Miami has they have the stats advantage, clearly. All these little Miami symbols popping up for a reason because they're better in numbers. 5.3 runs versus 1.7 for Seattle. Clear advantage there. It was 3-2 yesterday, but that didn't help the totals at all. 278 batting in the last 3 for Miami, while Seattle was smooth at 154. So clear advantage Miami. Strikeouts, Seattle has come down from worse in the majors. They struck out 10 times last game, so hey, not as bad. Looking at the pitching, we see Gilbert's going out there for Seattle to 293 with a .92, just beast numbers. Has not faced Miami last few games. 8 innings, 2-hit gem. 6.2, 6.3 against the White Sox. 5-1 against Oakland. Houston got it for 4, but outside of that, pretty good. So we got Seattle with their pretty beast pitcher against Miami's offense is doing pretty good. Other hand, we have someone named Sean Anderson, who was acquired by Miami, previously with Texas, pitched 2 innings Friday, pitched .1 so it's going to be a bullpen game most likely for Miami. So that tells us Seattle all day in this one. So we're going back to the odds. We see Seattle money line. We'll take Seattle money line. We're also going, that's 7.5. We have on offense hot, and we have, I don't know who this dude is, but you can see in 2 innings, get 9 hits and 4 runs to Washington. 1 hit over .1, and then 5 and 2 over 3 for LA. But his first game with Miami was not good, so we'll keep riding that trend. So for this one, we're going to go Seattle money line. We're going to take the over as well, and we'll move on to the next game. Next up, we got Atlanta and New York. We got Morton with a 391 up against Strubman with a 308. Looking at the odds, we see Yankees are slightly favored at home, 8.5s and 9s across the board for the total. Batting side, we see Atlanta's 1-4. Yankees have lost 3. Yankees have been struggling recently. They only scored 1 run yesterday, only 4 in their last 3 for an average. Atlanta has a clear advantage offensively. They're batting 292 in their last 3. New York is batting 194 in their last 3. They batted 111 yesterday. Not great numbers, and they're striking out a good bit. They struck out 12 times yesterday. So we have Atlanta with the offensive advantages here. Pitching wise, we got Morton with a 391 with a 126 going out there. We see his game log here, has not faced New York recently, but the only real bad game is that Washington game was 12 hits with 8 earned over 5.2. Not a good game, but he bounced back with a 1-hit gem against Oakland and 4 against him. And then, you know, with the way New York's pitching, I don't think his up and downs really matter that much. So New York is struggling. We see their pitching. They're sending out Stroman here with 308 with a 130. We can see his game log here. Has not faced Atlanta. Gave up 4 to Boston, but had 4-hit gem against KC. Gave up 5 to Minnesota. 1 to San Fran. 3-hit gem against San Diego. So they're both these pitchers roller coasters. They're both up and down. You don't know what you're going to get with them. Going back over to the betting side, we see Atlanta has the advantage. There's no advantage in pitching. Odds have New York favor for some reason, though. I can't buy that. How can I get behind New York when they've been dog walked the last couple of games? I can't do that. So with the way the pitching is set up, the way the offense is leaning Atlanta, I'm going to take Atlanta. We're going to take Atlanta money line. We got plenty of plus numbers out here. We'll root for Atlanta and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Milwaukee and San Diego. We got Rodriguez with a 6.48 against Vasquez with 5.7. Odds have it as a pick 'em. Bunch of 9s with a couple 8.5s in the totals. Batting side, we see San Diego's favored in the offensive part, 7 versus 4.3 runs in their last 3. It was 9-5 last game. On their runs, they scored 327 batting for second in the majors their last 3. Meanwhile, Milwaukee is 16th at 252, and San Diego's back where they normally belong, top 3 in strikeouts because they're very disciplined. Milwaukee, not so much. They struck out 15 times in their last game. 10 overall average in their last 3. So let's look at the pitching. We got Vasquez going out there for San Diego, 5.7 to 169. Philly rocked him up, 12 hits, 6 earned. Before that, 7-1 against Oakland, 6-3 against Arizona, 4-3 against KC, 10-3 against Atlanta. All I see here is there's a couple games where he get double-digit hits. That's not good. Looking at his counterpart, Rodriguez has only pitched 2 games, 7 for 2 against Toronto and 6 for 4 against LA. So this tells me this dude might give up some runs. We see the odds is 8.5 and 9s. San Diego's offense is pretty hot. Milwaukee's is still middle. They're above middle, so they're good. Milwaukee's good. San Diego's hot. Pitching, not good. I would say not good here. Vasquez, up and down like a roller coaster. This is probably where his baseline is 3s, and that was probably an outlier, and that's probably an outlier, so he's probably close to the 3s. So San Diego should have the pitching advantage. It's a pick 'em, so there's just so many varieties of things that could happen in this game because we have pitching we don't know nothing about. We have offenses that are everything here is pointing towards San Diego because of the pitching and the numbers. We'll take San Diego on the money line. Both teams give up runs. San Diego's hot. You know what? We'll take San Diego and we'll take the over. We're going to have a little heavier card today. So San Diego money line over 8.5. Move on to the next game. Next up, we got Washington and the Rockies. We got Parker with a 306 up against Quantrill with a 343. Odds have it slight favor for Washington. 10.5 is the total across the board. Batting, we see that Washington is 5.3 in their last 10. Meanwhile, Colorado's 5.0 in their last 10. Washington's curving up. Colorado's still trending even. Batting averages are both going up for both teams. 290 versus 265 their last 3, both top 11. Washington batted 452 yesterday against Colorado, so you can't lose many games when you're batting that good. And strikeouts, you can see the advantage goes to Washington. So there's not real advantage, just slight advantage Washington here. Nothing's really standing out. Pitching wise, Quantrill's going out 343 with a 130. Has not faced Washington recently. You can see his games. 2 back-to-back gems against St. Louis and Minnesota, 7 for 3 against LA, 9 for 4 against the Dodgers, 3-2 against Philly. Parker, his games, you can see 6 for 1 against Miami, has not faced Colorado recently, a couple of games against Atlanta, 5-3 and 3-2. So we see what we get with him. So with these two setups, both pitchers are pretty much equal in my mind. The batting is pretty much equal. The odds are pretty much equal. Nothing is standing out saying take this side over the other. So for me personally, I'm just going to pass on this entire game and move on to the next one. Our last game, we got the LA versus LA game. We got Plazak going out there for the Angels with 4-5 against Glasnow with a 3. Odds, we have the Dodgers are minus 370, 390, 370. Wow. That's the highest money line I've seen this year. That is amazing. The totals are 8.5 across the board. I don't care what the numbers say. Never bet something that's minus 3 something in baseball. I don't care who's pitching, who's playing, no matter what. If anything, they look at last year, anytime you had a minus 300, how many times did they lose outright? Multiple times, and it was the Dodgers more often than not. So just saying, anytime you get something that high, to me, it's worth half a unit on the Angels just for pure principle. But we'll look at the stats anyways. Dodgers lost the last game yesterday as a 200 favorite, which I said, oh look, late night Dodgers, money line parlay piece, watch them lose. What happened? They lost 2-3. So advantages, we see LA does have the advantage offensively, 4.3 versus 2. They're middle of the road. LA Angels are struggling. 172 average in the last 3 for Angels, 250 for the Dodgers. These are advantages for the Dodgers, but nothing impressive. We see other games with way different variety spreads out there. Looking at the pitching, we got Glasnow, who, yes, Glasnow is a beast. We know this. 3, his last game, 7 with 3 hits against KC. Beautiful game, 9 strikeouts, 12, 9, 8. Yeah, you can always look at Glasnow strikeout props. Yankees got roughed up for 5, but outside of that, great game, 2, 3. He's great. We know this. We know what Glasnow is. Plezak, on the other hand, has pitched 1 game. Has 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned, 2 home runs. Sure, 1 game. That's not enough data to really know what you're looking at. So this one, just because of the sheer absurdity of these lines, that line is crazy. I don't care. I know Glasnow's pitching. I'm going to put half a unit on the Angels. Find the biggest plus number I can because there's 300, 310, 3. Yeah, they're out there. I don't care. This is one of those games where anytime it's just, these lines are stupid. So I'm taking Angels half a unit plus whatever on the money line and call it a night. All right, that's it. All 15 games broken down, but I will give you a recap here. I know a lot of people want recaps, so I'll meet you in the middle. I'll read them off real quick. So I'm passing on the White Sox Detroit. I'm passing on San Fran, St. Louis, Mets money line, Philly money line, KC, Texas. I'm going to take the over of 8. Tampa Bay Pitt, I'm taking Tampa Bay money line and the over of 8. Minnesota, Oakland, we're going over 7.5. Boston, Cincy's a pass for me. Toronto, Cleveland's going to be Cleveland money line. Baltimore, Houston, we're going over 7.5. Seattle, Miami, we're going Seattle money line and the over 7.5. Atlanta, New York, we're going the Braves money line. Milwaukee, San Diego, we're going San Diego money line along with over 8.5. Washington, Colorado, I'm passing on. And LA series, I'm putting half a unit for fun. That's all it is, pure fun, on the Angels plus as high as you can get money line, plus 300, 310, 320. Wait till close to the game. It might be close to 350 by then because people are going to hammer the Dodgers because they see Glasnow. So Angels half a unit, why not? So those are all the plays. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It helps me out. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.